And this week for our lead topic, Russia recently had their election, right? They recently had their presidential election, and Vladimir Putin was reelected in a landslide. He was reelected in a landslide, and a lot of people said, hold on, something's up here. This doesn't make any sense. I don't feel like this election's legitimate. So Putin immediately scheduled a press conference and called all the election deniers terrorists. He coerced companies into kicking them off their apps, closing their bank accounts and the likes. And then when the inauguration came, Putin surrounded himself with over 20,000 troops, with attack dogs, with armored personnel carriers, and barbed wire, so he could be inaugurated. Then after he took off, after he went through the inauguration, after he won his re-election, he ordered the KGB to raid the homes of his top opponent and all of his top opponent's known accomplices. And then he had the courts make it so that that opponent couldn't appear on the ballot in the next election. What a monster Vladimir Putin is. He didn't do any of that. That was Joe Biden that did all that. Joe Biden. Well, no, Joe Biden didn't do this last part, I guess, here. The court in Colorado declared this week that Donald Trump was no longer qualified to be on the ballot in Colorado, in the state of Colorado. Now, Colorado's a blue state, not a big deal. Well, it's led to a domino effect. California is, of course, going to follow suit. Maine and Michigan and New Hampshire, which are 3 swing states, are all considering it as well. I think Arizona was the other one. And this is why I said that these midterm governor races were so important, because there was going to be trickery in the elections. And if you had a Republican head of state, at least you had a chance to stop it. But all of them, with the exception of New Hampshire, have a Democratic governor. So now you're screwed. And now you're basically just got to hope that they're not going to cheat. They're claiming the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which bans anyone who's guilty of insurrection from holding public office. There's a problem, though. There's a couple problems with this. It's going to the Supreme Court. It's probably not going to hold up. Probably. I don't know. Nonetheless, there's a couple problems with this. Most legal scholars believe that this doesn't apply to the president. Also, he hasn't been convicted of anything. He's been accused. So if we're going to open up Pandora's box where an accusation is all it takes to disqualify somebody from the presidency, well, then Joe Biden fingered my asshole when I was 12 years old. Prove that I'm wrong. He can't run. He's a criminal. Nonetheless, this was brought in during the Civil War. The Civil War, to make sure that, Confederate generals couldn't become president and divide the Union again or bring back slavery or whatever they were going to do with it. That's why this was brought in. Not because a guy rattled off some tweets you didn't like. So Michigan, Maine, New Hampshire, California, because Trump's going to run away with California. That's a real threat that Trump could win. God, these people are so stupid. They're so stupid. See, the Democrats have done this once before. Once before this has happened in the United States, and the Democrats were doing it. You want to know who the Democrats did this to last time, Mia? Take a guess. Who the last presidential candidate the Democrats railroaded off the ballots was. Who's your guess?
Trump?
Other than Trump, before Trump.
I have no idea.
Abraham Lincoln. They did it to Abraham Lincoln. They banned him from from appearing on ballots in the South, and he won the whole thing anyway. This is serious. This is like, I used to play in elementary school. It was GameCube. I used to play GameCube with this kid, and we'd play this fighting game. And every time you'd be right about to knock him out, he'd just unplug the system and shut it off. They're doing the same thing here. They're just shutting the game off because you're beating them. This is bullshit. So here's the thing. When the media came out after January 6th, and like I said, I always say this, when the mainstream media is in lockstep pushing one certain agenda item, when they're in lockstep out against trying to shut something down or disprove it or whatever, shut down conversation surrounding it, you have to start asking questions. Well, the mainstream media came out right after January 6th, and it was like they had been given the talking point. Because no one said treason, no one called him a traitor. They all used one specific word. And that specific word was insurrection. Like I said, like they'd been giving a talking point. Well, the 14th Amendment specifically says someone guilty of insurrection cannot hold office. So that was why they wanted to come out early and get ahead of things and get the public on board with the word insurrection. It was a big propaganda campaign, and they were fed it from the intelligence agencies and the Biden administration and the rest of the folks, because it was from day one. And this is why people think there were federal agents on the ground at January 6th. From day one, their goal was to push the insurrection narrative so they could ban Donald Trump from appearing on the ballot in 2024. That was day one their plan, and it succeeded. Now, like I said, it's going to the Supreme Court. It may not. It probably won't hold up. And it's just going to get nasty. It's just going to get nasty here. I mean, so if a natural-born citizen of the United States is at least 35 years old, has been a resident of 14 years, and has not been convicted of treason, he has constitutionally protected liberty to be on the ballot in any state. Trump has not been convicted of anything. You can say what you want about him. You can think he's guilty, but until the judge says guilty, until he strikes a guilty plea, or a jury finds him guilty, or whatever the case may be, he is not guilty of treason. You can think he is. You can say there's evidence of this, and this, and we can sit here and have that debate. But he is not guilty until he is convicted by a jury of his peers or pleads guilty to it. Just like you're not guilty of the heinous crime that I'm going to accuse you of, if you think that if you think that we shouldn't apply the innocent until proven guilty standard to everybody else. Don't you love that? It's innocent until proven guilty as long as you're a Democrat. Bob Menendez from the senator from New Jersey got literal gold bars in his coat jackets that he's taken bribes from the Egyptian government, right? That's what those were. He gets to stay. He gets his day in court, and we have to investigate, and we're going to keep pushing the investigation back, and nothing will happen. George Santos gets accused of spending a couple $100 on OnlyFans, and they kick him out. They didn't prove he did it. They accused him of it and said, that's enough, get out of here. They accused Donald Trump of insurrection, say that's enough, he's not allowed on the ballot. Do you see what you're doing? Do you see how this is a banana republic? The clear double standard that when Democrats get caught red-handed doing something, like Joe Biden getting $40,000 quote-unquote loan payments via check from his relatives that were siphoned through his crackhead son's business accounts for a loan he never gave out, or guys getting bribes from the Egyptian government having gold bars fall out of it. Who carries around gold bars? This is the wild, wild west. What are you going to pay for with a gold bar? Do you imagine going to like the quick shop and wanting to get a candy bar and a pop? Going, here, you got change for a gold bar? What the hell are you doing other than being a jackass carrying that around? So when they have these guys dead to rights doing stuff, we have to wait for them to get their day in court. But when a Republican gets accused of something, they're out of here, no trial. We all know you did it. You're guilty. Get the hell out of this race, to quote Vivek Ramaswamy. That's where we're at here. If you can't beat them, cheat. Because that's what this is. This is desperation. This is a Hail Mary here. They know that they know that Donald Trump is a threat to the status quo. They wouldn't pull this shit on Nikki Haley, because Nikki Haley's part of the establishment and part of the regime. They wouldn't care if Nikki Haley won. They wouldn't be thrilled about it, but they wouldn't care if Nikki Haley won. They wouldn't care if Chris Christie won. You know who'd be real happy if Chris Christie won is the Washington, D.C. Golden Corrals. Would be thrilled if Chris Christie won the presidency, because they got their top customers moving into town there. They wouldn't care if those guys won. But they're doing this to Donald Trump, and don't think they won't do this to you, because you don't have millions of supporters and billions of dollars to defend yourself in court with, right? You don't have a massive political party backing you. They will terrorize you for speaking out if you get a lame duck Joe Biden. I'm telling you this right now. So they're going for Donald Trump, and that's what you do. When you can't win, you cheat. You cheat. You ban people from the ballots. That's when we talk about election interference. I'm not saying someone's showing up in the dark of night and stuffing fake ballots in. I'm sure that's happened. I'm not saying that people are voting in their dead relatives' names. I'm sure that's also happened. I do it every year. No, I'm kidding. No, that's a joke. Do not report me again. I got reported in 2020. We're not doing this shit again for a stupid joke. Don't even start this thing again. I do not want that phone call 2 elections in a row. Okay? But no, so you get excuse me, election interference doesn't come in people voting, not in mass at least, in them voting in the names of dead relatives or stuffing ballot boxes. Election interference comes from them doing shit like this, like removing their opponents from the ballot, completely unprecedented since the Civil War, right? Election interference comes in the form of certain campaigns colluding with social media companies to take down news articles and tweets that paint them in a negative light. Election interference comes from Time Magazine writing an article a couple days after the election about how the entire media the entire mainstream media, with the exception of Fox, colluded to not publish negative stories about Biden and only publish negative stories about Trump. It's true. They've admitted it. You can look that up. That's how election interference happens. Election interference happens by the governors, by Democratic governors in swing states, again, very critical elections, saying, yeah, this COVID variant's really bad, man. We're going to have to extend mail-in voting for a couple weeks here. I don't know what we're going to do. That's how election interference happens. I know it's sexy and cool to think of some weird, some guy in a trench coat walking up to a ballot box in the middle of the night with thousands of fake ballots and all. I know we've all heard the theories about pipes breaking in the polling places, and those should certainly be investigated. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but that's not the main way these things get stolen. They get stolen by the rules. It's technically legal, but anyone can point at it and say it's dirty play and trickery bullshit that's going on. What they're going to do here, remember what we say on this show all the time, and you set a precedent, you say, hey, when's this going to get used against me? They're going to set a precedent, and they're opening up Pandora's box, like I said. Republicans are going to come back with a vengeance. I've already told you this. I've already told you that the next Republican president that takes office is going to do what Joe Biden did to Donald Trump to Joe Biden tenfold. They're going to terrorize the Biden family. And now they're going to start banning Democratic opponents from showing up on ballots. We've already seen Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick threaten to take Joe Biden off the Texas ballot. Said, hey, you could say we could just accuse somebody of insurrection and they're off the ballot. Sure. Joe Biden, you're guilty of insurrection by letting people in through the border and refusing to stop it. That's insurrection. People are taking this country. We got foreign nationals that aren't legal citizens here taking this country over. By your definition, that's insurrection. I'm accusing you of doing it. No, you haven't had your day in court. You're off the ballot. We can play this game. That's not good for anybody if either side does it. So let's not play this game. But if you're going to fire the first shot, don't get mad when somebody swings back at you, because that's what's going to happen here. That's what's going to happen. And then what's going to happen when this doesn't work, because like I said, this will go to the Supreme Court, and they'll say this is ridiculous. You can't kick him off the ballot. And what's going to happen is they're going to do their next desperation heave, which I've already told you months ago was going to happen. Just wait, it's going to happen. Think of the three main third-party candidates right now. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Colonel West, it doesn't matter. He's going to get 2% of the vote. And Jill Stein. Those are the three, right? All of those people will more than likely take votes from Joe Biden and not Donald Trump, at least 2-1. Kennedy might break even, right? So between the three of them, here's what's going to happen. What's that confused look on your face for? What?
Who are those people that we were watching the debates for?
That's the Republican primary.
Oh.
None of them are going to be on the ballot. No. They're all going to lose to Trump. It's a waste of time. We never should have done those. Anyway, what you're going to see is the DNC is going to start coming after these people like Jill Stein, like West, and like RFK. And they're going to start trying to sue to keep them off of the ballots. They're going to start passing all these legal hurdles that make it impossible for these third parties to get on the ballots, because they know once Trump's allowed on the ballot, that's the only hope they have, is to kick these people off. To kick off the people that are going to siphon away the votes from their base being black voters and far-left progressives, both of which are very, very upset with Biden for different reasons, right? This Palestine thing's not going away. Lots of other issues. He promised the black community a lot of things that he couldn't deliver on, and he hasn't delivered on them, and people are fed up with him, and then they're rightfully so. And so they're going to sue to kick those candidates off the ballots. Now, those candidates aren't going to have the money and the resources and the connections to get it appealed up to the Supreme Court to defend themselves. No, they're going to have to take it state by state and probably go bankrupt in the process doing it. And they'll just bully them out. They may not even win, but they'll just stall them and drain them of all their resources in court so they can't run an actual campaign and they can't siphon any votes off of Joe Biden. That's how they're going to... It's just dirty trickery because they can't win a fair fight. It's like China knows they can't win a war head-to-head with the U.S., so they send us transgender shit on TikTok and they send fentanyl across the Mexican border to poison all of our people with, and Chinese and Russian trolls on the internet to divide us amongst each other. That's what they do. They know they can't win a head-to-head election because Biden's been a disaster. Biden knows he can't win on policies and results because they've been so bad. And no matter which way he tries to manipulate statistics or gaslight people, the average person's still looking at the money in their wallet or their bank account or whatever and saying, wow, there's significantly less in there than there was 4 years ago. And that's all it's going to take. So they know they can't win fair and square head-to-head, so they got to cheat. Cheat within the rules, but still cheat, if that makes sense. Now, here's a video of Biden when he was asked about it. Go ahead and check this out. This is some disturbing language here from the geriatric in chief.
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
We have to demonstrate that he will not take power. If Donald Trump said that, that would be front page news for the next week. We have to demonstrate that he will not take power. So here's my question. What's Joe going to do if Trump does beat him? If Trump, let's say Trump's the nominee, he doesn't go to jail, he doesn't get convicted of treason. What's he going to do if Trump does beat him in 2024? Is he going to refuse to step down? He's already been and done everything they told us Trump would be. Is Joe Biden going to refuse to step down? No comment. Is Joe Biden going to refuse to step down if Donald Trump wins? Will he just say, no, this is an illegitimate election. We don't recognize the results. And wouldn't that be ironic if he did exactly what everyone was afraid Trump was going to do in 2020? This wasn't a legitimate election. We don't recognize it. He's an insurrectionist. He can't take power. I ain't going nowhere. Sorry. What if he does that? There's a legitimate chance that happens. And the average person, you got to start thinking, what's the next step if that happens? Because I thought about it, and I don't like where that goes for this country as a whole. How, if we're going to say that all we have to do is accuse someone of insurrection to kick them off the ballot, how long until Joe Biden goes, you know what? You running against me is insurrection. I am the Senate, right? I am the end-all, be-all.
I am the Senate.
The judge, jury, and executioner, the Count of Monte Cristo. What I say goes. You're running against me. That's treason. That's insurrection. Off the ballot. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.